All right, everyone, we've got fairly important breaking news, which is that Twitter's stock was down 18% and is still down almost 17% as we speak in pre-trading. Considering this just happened to Facebook the other day, I think I might be noticing a pattern. Now, if it spreads to like Google, all hell breaks loose or something. What you could be seeing is, interestingly, imagine for a moment that these companies have been wildly overvalued by rampant speculation. Much like with Facebook, people thought, it's going to grow forever, capitalism wins out, I guess, or corporatism in that case. Now, that people continued to speculate the price higher and higher despite the fact that the actual returns on it are never going to be that high. It's basically like a pyramid scheme. Now imagine that the user base begins to decline or stagnate, like it did with Facebook, like apparently is happening with Twitter. And then when the company finally has to admit, we're in decline, whoops, I'm dropping this stock, for 10 cents or something because it's basically worthless. Probably. Now, if it follows the classic, like the age-old economic pattern, what you would expect is that these two markets, and maybe others follow along, they collapse by a significant sum. Then they appear to stabilize and start crawling back up, and people say, whew, nothing big happened. Then they eventually go into a total backslide. It's called a bull trap. That's probably what'll happen too. You could be on the eve of a massive bust, which would be like the dot-com bubble. You remember that? I think it was in late 1999, right into 2000. All the dot-com companies had been wildly overpriced. They were considered to be more valuable than they actually were. Yeah, they became intrinsic and very powerful, and some of them had a lot of users, and they're very interesting, but they were overvalued. That is, the actual value they were capable of delivering, the growth they were capable of harnessing was considerably less than their on-paper value. When that correction, which is what it is, happened, a lot of them went under. This led to the rise of some of the earliest monopolies. This led also to the rise of Google. Google was an afterthought sort of company with regards to search engines and everything else until Yahoo was knocked off of its pedestal by the dot-com bust. Until then, Yahoo was basically king. You can remember commercials for it all the time. Sort of the late Gen X era, early millennial era was marked by Dell and Yahoo and all of this, IBM, all this interesting stuff. They got completely wiped out. Some of them became zombie companies, some of them got gobbled up, became subsidiaries, and so forth. You could very easily see now, I think, a social media bubble occurring now. It may impact only Twitter and Facebook. It may go further. It doesn't really matter. I would say a company like Google that's as diverse as it is, as opposed to Twitter, which is basically just Twitter, or Facebook, which is just Facebook, something like Google that's a conglomerate is probably far more resistant. You might see part of their company start to collapse. It would be very difficult for Google to die off. Same with Amazon. Amazon is a little bit of everything. Some of these companies, therefore, probably wouldn't be affected in the same manner. They go beyond social media. Amazon's not a social media company. They do the video hosting thing, I think, now, or are planning to, but for the most part, it's publishing and e-commerce and stuff. There's apparently no bubble at the moment there. eBay, unfortunately, because I really like them, is having problems right now. I really want to see them continue. I really don't want to see them become a zombie firm because I like eBay better for e-commerce than like an Etsy or something, or Alibaba or something. I like eBay. I've always used it. Sort of a holdover again from that last era. They survived the dot-com bubble thing and became prominent partially because of it. So they did better than maybe a Yahoo or something, at least until now. Now they're shuttering too. Facebook is no longer gaining users. Twitter is no longer gaining users. In fact, they're losing it. Therefore, they intrinsically lose value unless they can reverse that. But the problem is the maximum number of people that'll ever find Twitter cool or necessary are already on Twitter. Jack has additionally been purging millions of people off the platform on a regular basis for wrongthink. What do you think's going to happen? Your numbers wouldn't be down if you hadn't purged users. If you hadn't kicked several million wrongthink individuals off your platform, wouldn't that have made up the difference? You wouldn't have lost users, you'd still be growing. Well, then your stock wouldn't have collapsed 18 points, now would it? Now, that will recover partially. It's not just going to continue to collapse and like a week from now there's no Twitter or something. They'll recover, and then they'll go into their long, slow, ignominious decline out of existence, and they'll turn into another Yahoo. That's probably what will end up happening. And meanwhile, Gab's already there. Gab, I said over a year ago, if Twitter collapses, alt tech is a huge recipient of a lot of that support. Gab's already positioned, Minds is already positioned, sites like BitChute, they've got a comment function now, they're closer to like an earlier wave YouTube at this point. They're all positioned to take advantage of that. So, by the way, is Google. Google's already positioned itself into the social media market. Who isn't helped? Facebook and Twitter. They're the odd people out. It's very funny because I said they'd be the first to go. Probably Twitter and Facebook would be in the running to see who can die off faster. Google, they have no problem. Like YouTube is not a dying platform. It's still growing rapidly. It has nonstop. It's a much more central, intrinsic platform. It's simply as well more interested and less thought policed than Twitter has been. Twitter's gone way, way over the line. Like the NGOs don't even have to ask them to censor things anymore. Jack does it himself. He loves it. Anything that's not pornography. Porn's fine on Twitter, apparently. Yeah, you can be naked on Twitter in front of an audience that may include people that are underage, but you can't say like poo-poo, pee-pee, or something like that because that'd be offensive to somebody. You can't say a mildly offensive joke gets you banned. Porn, nobody really gives a fuck as long as you're an adult. So yeah, Twitter has some issues. It's a weird platform. I use it, partially to notify people when I upload on YouTube and BitChute or post something like a picture from the garden. But yeah, it's still an interesting platform. It's just Jack's taken in the wrong direction. He's censored and kicked a lot of people off the platform. That pissed off also, secondarily, large segments of their audience. When Sargon goes, some of his people who were only there because Sargon was there, they're gone too. That's the way that it happens. A lot of arrivals on Twitter only arrive because someone that they liked, some content creator off-site, decided to use it. What else is Twitter really for? It's for notifying people and some shit posting. And the latter gets harder and harder as it becomes more censored. The same is true of Facebook. It's no longer intrinsic for business owners. It's no longer necessary for them to have a Facebook page. If they do, they can leave it on there as a placeholder, as an afterthought, and then simply strike anyone down who tries to impersonate them. Problem solved. They don't need to interact. On Twitter, there's almost an aversion to interaction at this point. Between the quality filter preventing people from even seeing much of the content on site, most of the interesting content, by the way, between that and the echo chamber that's built on Twitter, the hyper-partisanship, it's not as interactive. It's less interactive than YouTube. It's less interactive than an alt-tech site that's less algorithmically manipulated. So they are the odd men out. Yeah, I expect that this is going to go into full bull trap mode. And these sites, Facebook and Twitter, will recover some, and then they're going to collapse. So if I own stock, and full disclosure, I don't, so thankfully for me, if I had it, I would probably sell it right now. I probably wouldn't bother waiting because they've probably peaked. And let's say they continue growing, it's just going to happen down the road anyway. Then you don't want to get caught after it drops like, 30, 40% in a day. Yeah, probably not a great idea when you won't be able to find anyone to buy it. That's what can happen. These sites are past their prime and they're no longer growing. So they're not like a Google or an Amazon in all respects. That's about all. Peace out.